Welcome everybody. Great to see so many old friends and new friends joining this webinar on augmented intelligence in bid writing. We are living in extremely interesting times with the most exciting technological advance I've seen in my lifetime. Certainly I've seen since the internet. So I think this is a timely moment to talk about what has changed in the world of technology, why it's changed, what that means for writing. I might jump a little bit to what it means for humanity in general, and then we'll specifically talk about what it means for bid writing, tender writing, and proposal writing, and we'll see if there's any lessons that can be learned from other areas. So I'm going to start with a thesis which is not a technological thesis, it's a historical one, which is about which technologies change the world and which ones don't, and why. And I'm going to suggest that innovation is about speeding things up, and innovations that change the world are things that speed things up that are fundamentally human. So I'm going to ask us to cast our minds back in time to 2700 BCE. And here you've got the invention of the abacus. Well, the abacus, so what? What does the abacus do? Well, the abacus allows you to add up and multiply quicker. Well, again, so what? Well, if you can add up and multiply quicker, you can trade quicker. And if you can trade quicker, you can do more complex trade. And trading, selling things, swapping things amongst humans is a fundamentally human activity. It's a core of what we do as humans. So let's fast forward over 4,000 years. And we'll get to the printing press. What does the printing press allows us to do? Well, that speeds up the sharing of ideas. And it turns out trying to convince people of our opinions and, sort of telling them stories and wanting to be able to share narratives, that is a fundamentally human thing to do. And again, the printing press takes a fundamentally human activity and speeds it up, not just a little bit, but by orders of magnitude, tens and hundreds and thousands of times faster. So what does that do? Well, it leads to massively improved literacy rates, but critically, part of the sharing of ideas is the sharing of scientific ideas, mathematical ideas, and that speeds then the scientific revolution, which leads us straight to, and directly causally, to 1764 and the invention of the steam engine. What does the steam engine do? Well, the steam engine literally speeds up locomotion, but it also, and more importantly, speeds up making things. It speeds up manufacturing, and making things, building stuff, is a fundamentally human activity, and the steam engine speeds that up by legions of magnitude, and hence it changes the world. Electricity does the same thing. It speeds up essentially powering devices, so electric lights, motors, heaters, telephony, radio, everything that comes from electricity. Radioactivity. At the end of the 19th century, when radioactivity is discovered, it literally speeds up the conversion of matter to energy, and again speeds up power, speeds up destruction in the case of weapons. And then fast forwarding to what will be in many of our lifetimes, the popularization of the internet in the late 20th century. What does the internet do? It speeds up the sharing of knowledge of ideas, and knowledge and ideas are fundamentally, sharing knowledge and ideas is a fundamentally human activity, and the internet sped it up again to a magnitude that could not have been imagined prior to the internet. So let's go on to then 2017 and large language models. What do large language models allow you to do? Well, they allow computers to read and to write. And it turns out that reading and passing information and then writing and generating content, those are fundamentally human activities. And this is a technology that speeds those activities up by orders of magnitude. So I'm going to suggest to you that this is a world-changing technology. It's a world-changing technology that's really only had its world-changing capability for the last 18 months. We are right at the start of this revolution. This would be like the internet in 1995, thinking about what it might do, or the printing press on its invention. You can't possibly know how it's going to change the world, but I think we can make a reasonably good guess that it's going to change the world quite fundamentally, because it takes something fundamentally human and makes it so much faster. So I'm guessing and I'm hoping quite a lot of the people on this call are writers. And if you're like me, you probably see writing as quite sort of fundamental to who you are, the ability to take ideas and present ideas and make arguments on paper as being something quite intrinsic. So I argued for 20 years that computers would never be able to read and write. I considered it a fundamentally human activity. And it was only in September of 2021 when my friend Andrew, who works for Google's DeepMind on their protein folding team, said, "Hey, Sean, you should look at these things, large language models. They're remarkable. They can do what you said computers would never be able to do." And I said, "Don't be silly. Of course they can't." And then I looked and I was absolutely blown away. So the question I asked, which I thought was quite a natural question, was what happened, right? Kind of, we're used to computers being able to add up and multiply faster than us. That's fine. Now they can read and write faster than us. This is profoundly different to anything that's gone before. What has changed? And actually, it was three things that changed. So the first thing that happened, and I'm going to use the metaphor of a brain. But think of these large neural nets as enormous silicon brains with a not entirely dissimilar architecture to our own. So the first thing that happened was that the brains got bigger. So way back in 2018, poor old Elmo has only got 94 million parameters in its brain. If you go to Megatron Turing and the latest models, that's got 530 billion parameters. So that axis on that y-axis is a logarithmic axis. So this is actually exponential growth that you're seeing here. If we put that on a more normal linear axis, then you'd see that as an exponential growth curve. So these brains are getting orders of magnitude bigger. The growth is exponential. So the brains got bigger, and then the computers read more. So if you look at again, and this is a logarithmic graph on the right hand side on the x-axis here, Elmo had read 100 million words. If you then fast forward to GPT-3, it has read 726 billion words. So that is essentially everything that has ever been written. So yeah, well, I should rather more accurately say everything that's ever been digitized. So you've got 580 billion words of what's called common crawl, which is the bits of the internet you would want a computer to read. You've got 26 billion words in books. Again, for those of us who are traditional readers and writers, it might come as a surprise that in all of written books, there are only 26 billion words compared to 580 billion words on the wider internet, 94 billion words on Wikipedia. So if you add all of those up, so you've created this bigger brain and you've trained it on more words. So the modern large language models have read over 700 billion words. A human reading one word every second would take 23,000 years to achieve the same feat. That's if you never go to sleep either. And then the last thing that happened, which created this emergent property of computers being able to read and write, was a 2017 paper, primarily by Google engineers, called "Attention is All You Need." And this paper essentially proposed a new network architecture for Transformer, based solely on attention mechanisms. So think about this as having a different shape of brain. And the key idea actually in this is quite simple. In most regressions, when you're trying to pick the next thing in a sequence, and what these transformer models do essentially is they pick the next word based on the previous words that have come before in a sentence. And usually when you do that, the most important data is the data nearest to the point that you're trying to extrapolate to. So that might all sound a bit overly mathematical. Let me try and give a sort of easy way of looking at it. If you run an umbrella shop and you've got data which says if it rains 1 millimeter, I sell 1 umbrella. And if it rains 2 millimeters, I sell 2 umbrellas. And if it rains 3 millimeters, I sell 3 umbrellas. And you're trying to guess what happens if it rains 4 millimeters. Then you can draw the line for that as simple linear regression, and you get, I guess that I sell 4 umbrellas. Now, the most important data sets to extrapolate from there is 3 is more important than 1. The data closer to the bit you're trying to predict to is most important. But it turns out that isn't the case in sentences. So, for example, if I pick a sentence, something like, the king went to the beach and built a sandcastle, and that sandcastle won the competition, and he was very happy. It turns out that probably the most important part of that sentence is right at the start. It's the king, right? So the most important part of sentences is not the bit closest to the end of the sentence. It's somewhere in the middle or at the start, depending on the meaning of the sentence. And essentially, this attention mechanism was a way of using computers, a way of using maths to find the most important part of the sentences and give those most important parts of the sentences more priority in terms of picking what words would come next. So if everyone will have heard of Chat-GPT. Chat-GPT stands for generative. It makes stuff up. Pre-trained, it's read these 700 billion words. And transformer, it's using this transformer neural network architecture. So those are the 3 things that those are the 3 things that changed. The brains got bigger, the brains read more, and the brains were structured in this new way. And it turned out when you did those 3 things that computers could suddenly read and write. And so when I say computers can read and write, what does that actually look like? Well, you can get GPT 3.5, which is one of the large GPT-4, which is one of the largest large language models available from a company called OpenAI. And you can get then these computers to take tests like humans take tests. So you can get them to take the bar exam. And if GPT-4, when GPT-4 takes the bar exam, it scores more highly than 90% of lawyers. So it's at the 90th percentile. It's in the top 10% of answers for the bar exam. If you get it to do college level mathematics, history, biology, physics, again, it's in the 86th to 100th percentile. So it's either better than all other humans, or is better than the vast majority of humans. Obviously, these large language models have never tasted wine, but on advanced sommelier theory, they're still better than 77% of humans. And then we start to get to harder tasks. So it turns out harder tasks, at least harder tasks for the large language models. Creative writing, they're quite average at creative writing. Obviously, kind of quite a critical skill for bid writers, tender writers, and proposal writers. And computer programming, again, they still find hard computer programming very difficult. Although I'm always slightly skeptical about the computer programmers telling us that their jobs are the safest. But that's not really do. So is this the end of human writers then? We've got these computers now, they can read and write. Obviously, we saw the Hollywood writers' strike relatively recently. Obviously, it's just been settled, but part of the reason for the strike was the fear of Hollywood bosses using artificial intelligence to replace human writers on shows and on films. And part of the settlement agreement that they've struck with the studios is clear limitations on the use of artificial intelligence. And specifically around artificial intelligence not being able to be used unguided. So I think there's some really interesting parallels for us to talk about there. I believe in augmented intelligence. So I think that this is a technology like all technologies that will be used by humans for humans. So I think the history of any technology is you start off, the headlines are this new technology is going to kill us all. Then the next headline is this new technology is going to steal all our jobs. And then the next headline is what was so special about this new technology? It was all a con. And then at some point there are no headlines and we just start using the technology and it just becomes an everyday part of our human experience. And the internet, the printing press, electricity are all, I think, extremely good examples of that. So I wanted to pick a very specific case study, perhaps to illustrate this, and it's perhaps the area which we thought would be most impacted by artificial intelligence was radiology and radiologists. So Geoffrey Hinton, a godfather of AI, works for Google's DeepMind, again, the most important AI company on the planet, other than AutogenAI, of course, and the second most important AI company on the planet. And of course, you're a godfather of AI, basically, if you're over 30 and you work in artificial intelligence. I think that's how you get the moniker. But he said in 2016, people should stop training to be radiologists now. It's obvious that within 5 years, AI is going to do a better job than humans. So radiologists looking at scans, at X-rays, looking for abnormalities, predicting tumors. The view was that within 5 years, artificial intelligence would just be better at diagnosing than humans would be. And in which case, what was the point of radiologists anymore? Well, it turned out by 2020, it didn't take 5 years. It was quicker than that. By 2020, AI was already better than radiologists at diagnosis, at finding abnormalities, saying things were cancerous and getting that right or getting that they were just better than humans at doing it. So you'd think that might be the end for radiologists. I mean, the vast majority of their job was doing this. This analysis of X-rays, etc. And now AI could do it better than them. But actually, that wasn't what happened at all. And this is from the Harvard Business Review in 2022. The only radiologists whose job may be threatened are those who refuse to work with AI. And then in 2023, Yann LeCun from Meta. Geoffrey was totally wrong. We have data to back that up now. So what happened was that radiologists weren't replaced by AI. A lot of their jobs started to be done by AI, but that freed up the radiologists to do far more important work. They could do more advanced diagnosis. They could think about treatment plans. They could look at patterns, and all of which that the humans could do better than the AI. But now the human plus AI could make radiologists just far more effective for patients. So if you look at this graph here, you can see in 2020 is the bit where AI performance surpasses human performance. But you see, actually, radiology postings continue to go up, and indeed the average salary of a radiologist starts to increase, because radiologists now are even more highly skilled because they also need to be able to use artificial intelligence. I think there's obvious and huge parallels for bid writing, bid writers, tender writers, proposal professionals here. AI is not going to replace bid writers, but bid writers who use AI are going to replace bid writers who don't use AI. So talk a little bit about, it's been quite sort of a theoretical kind of piece at the moment about the how and the why computers are now able to do language. I'm going to talk a little bit about AutogenAI's large language engines that we build, and we build bespoke language engines for each customer that we work with. And language engines are a bit different to large language models. So large language models are a component of a language engine, one of the components, of which there are 4. And we use a number of different large language model providers. So you've got OpenAI, who are probably most famous for their Chat-GPT. You've got people like Cohere, Anthropic, Google have got their own models, AWS, Databricks. So you've got all of these different large language model providers. Think of them like electricity providers. And different large language models are good at different tasks. So you want to use the right language model for the right task. The second thing then is prompt engineering. And you might have seen some articles on LinkedIn. In fact, you almost certainly will have done. Excuse me, articles on LinkedIn about prompt crafting. So if you add this word into this, you can get Chat-GPT to give you a slightly better answer. That is prompt crafting. Prompt engineering is a quite different piece, which is where you're doing tens, hundreds, and thousands of hours of a proper scientific research around what models to use, around what crafting and engineering prompts to put in, and critically then what linguistic ingredients to pull from proprietary and public data sources. So you want to use a company's library of previous bids, tenders, and proposals. You want to use external data sources. You want to use the internet, and also then the creative power of large language models and of generative artificial intelligence in order to be able to mix those things all together in order to be able to specifically answer the bid, tender, or proposal question at hand. So I've spoken an enormous amount, kind of incredibly theoretically about this. So I thought it might be a good idea to actually look at our system in action, and I'll show you what we've built and give some ideas of how this works in practice. So we've built this around the workflow of bid writers, tender writers, bid professionals. So we start with a question we might get asked in an RFP. So we might get asked, I don't know, how does AutogenAI make bidding more efficient? Let's put something, that might be a question we get asked in a bid, tender, or proposal quite a lot. And then where do we get the ideas from for that? Well, I'm going to get some ideas from the internet. So I am going to ask the internet this question, and I'm going to try and use this generative artificial intelligence to find semantically similar ideas and pull them back. I'm going to use creative AI. So I'm going to allow the large language model just to make some stuff up and see whether it's true or false. And if it's true, I'll keep it. If it's good, I'll keep it. If it's false, I'll get rid of it. And of course, I'm also going to use AutogenAI's big library. So you see, we start to come up then with a whole host of ideas. AutogenAI allows users to quickly access detailed data about past bids and campaigns, which can be used to make more informed decisions. Yeah, it's an okay answer. I don't really like it. I'm going to get rid of it. AutogenAI streamlines the bidding process by generating high-quality draft bids and tenders proposals using advanced natural language processing models and machine learning algorithms. That's come from our library. We can see where that's come from. It's come from our commercial assets, our go-to-market messaging, and that's a much better idea. We like that one. AutogenAI uses generative AI technology to help businesses create stronger bids and pitches, increasing their chances of winning proposals. Yep, love that idea. That's come from the internet now. Where's that come from? Well, it's come from TechCrunch. So it's come from an article about us and again, we can just click on it if we want to find out exactly where it came from. So this tells us from that article on the internet. We like that idea. Let's go with that. AutogenAI's driven building algorithms can optimize bids for maximum efficiency and profitability. Yeah, we like that one. And you see that is creative AI, but that's a good answer, so we're going to keep it. The tool enables business development teams to focus on higher value activities such as client engagement and solution development rather than spending excessive time on bid drafting. Love that idea. Designed to make the process of bidding more efficient, potentially reducing the cost. Yeah, we like that one. Also, AutogenAI's automated bidding process used to quickly accurately adjust bids in real time. We like that one. So you can see here we start to come up with our answer as we would as human writers with subject matter experts or in a brainstorming session where we're going, okay, what do we want our answer to say? Well, when we're happy with, okay, that's the answer I want. Again, we might start to move those ideas around. We might start to say, okay, that's now the order that I want for my response. And of course, as a human, I can add in my extra ideas. We're not just doing the AI's ideas. Once I'm happy then with this is what I want to say, and this is the structure for how I want to say it, I'm just then going to ask the artificial intelligence to write us our first draft proposal on this. So again, for me to write a first draft proposal of maybe 1,000, 1,500 words, that might take me half a day to do it without our tool. We drink our own champagne in this business all the time when we're writing a tender. So we've got our first 1,000 words that we're going to write for our tender. AutogenAI has been designed to revolutionize bid writing process, generate superior quality bids, tenders, posts, made possible for use of cutting-edge activity. So again, you see here we've got our first draft tender, and we've done that first draft tender at the click of a button. All of that's evidenced and true, so it doesn't suffer the hallucination problems that sort of a Chat-GPT or those others might do. And you can see just how quickly we put that through. Also, AutogenAI tool design. Oh, do you know what? That's not quite how I would want to say this as a bid writer. I'm just going to use our We Will tool. So I'm going to try and make this more persuasive. So AutogenAI will streamline the bidding process. Notice we always give 3 options here. So we always give at least 3 options. So that's so that we can pick, the human can use their judgment to pick the answer that they like best. So also AutogenAI will streamline the bidding process, offering significant, yeah, we like that one. That's nice and powerful, kind of writing in the continuous future tense. Well, okay. Well, I've got this about how we're going to do this, but I really need to incorporate some win themes from the customer. That's okay. We've got some tender requirements. The customer's really interested in ensuring SMEs and voluntary sector organisations are part of the solution. Okay, well, that's fine. We're just going to ask the AI to rewrite that, but now start to incorporate that idea. Also, AutogenAI will not only streamline the bidding process, offering a significant advantage to business development teams, but we'll also ensure that SMEs and multi-sector organisations are part of the solution, utilising, but also ensures SME invites in the bidding process. You see how we start to bring this in and mix that in as a human writer would. And again, we can incorporate various different things from that. We might want our own company values of I don't know, of quality. So again, we want to talk about how we're going to do all of this, but with now an emphasis on quality. And you'll see again how this has started to give us 3 answers, and we can pick the one which we think starts to emphasize quality. Also, will generate high quality, compelling gist. You can see how it just starts to put in those pieces like a bid writer would. Well, typically, of course, we've written now our beautiful 227 words, but unfortunately, it's a 200-word answer. So again, we'll just say, okay, well, we just want to do that in 200 words. We'll just ask the AI to take our 227-word answer and redo that as a 200-word answer. Again, we can start to put that in, and this will go through that and then tell us exactly how many words it's come up with. So we'll just give it a couple of moments to finish writing, but there you can see that's come in, that's taken out 58 words and brought that back in now to within the character. Or within the word limit. So that gives you a sort of flavour for some of the things. If we picked a different question, again, to give a view, so I'll just start again. So something else we might do, I don't know, like let's pick something which should be on the internet. So they're not one of our customers, so we wouldn't have any library AI on them at the moment. But how does Capita demonstrate social value? Something like that. That would be a question that Capita might get answered. Well, from our creative AI and our internet AI, we can start to write an answer for them, even without having all their previous bids, tenders, and proposals uploaded into the system. So again, we can work for supporting supply chains or writing about things where we don't have previous information in our library. And again, I'll just show you how that works. It takes a little while to go and search the entirety of the internet. There are, as we've said, billions of words on the internet, and we're going through all of those, and then we're finding the most interesting stuff. So Capita provides employment opportunities to disadvantaged people and helps them gain skills and qualifications. So that's creative AI, maybe we like that. Capita demonstrates social value by striving to live by the values they espouse, creating a diverse workforce that reflects communities. Where's that come from? Well, again, we can go to find out exactly where that's come from. Not enormously surprisingly, that's come from Capita's social value piece. So maybe we like that idea, we want to write about it. Capita provides training, development opportunities to help local community grow. Fantastic. It shows social value through responsible operation, their client relations, supplier engagement, ethical business practices, strategic supplier adhering to a new social value model. Maybe we like all of those ideas. Once we've got the ideas, again, we can start to move those around, put them in the order that we want them. We can find out exactly where that information came from. And then when we're happy we've got all of the ideas that we want to incorporate in our response, again, we can just ask the AI to write us that first draft and just do it leagues faster than a human writer would be able to do this without having an artificial intelligence language engine building this for them. So again, we see here it's See here, we've written our first 1,000 words. So we've done 1,000 words in seconds. Capita, a strategic supply to the UK government, operates under a new social value model that places significant importance demonstrating responsible corporate citizenship. New social value model introduced by the UK government. Oh, okay. Well, what's this new social value model introduced by the UK government? Let's just use some search to find that. Again, we can start seeing it from our, you can see it's actually in AutogenAI's library. But if we're just going from the internet to find that, again, we can start to find it. Oh, look, here's the government's social value model. Wow, there's a lot of stuff in that, isn't there? That looks like I'm going to have to spend ages reading that. Well, I don't want to spend ages reading that. I've got better things to do. So I'm just going to ask the AI instead to, so if I go back here, I'm just going to copy that paste, and I'm going to say to the artificial intelligence, look, this was 11,000 words. Can you just tell me what the commissioner's priorities were on that? So again, how you might get a researcher to do this, or you might get or you might do it yourself, but it would take you time. I'm just going to ask the AI, look, can you read these 11,000 words for me and tell me what the priorities are around social value? Now, it is reading 11,000 words, so it will just take a minute or so to do this. But of course, while it's doing this, we can go back and we can start to play with our piece. Okay, well, that's great. Maybe I want to insert a statistics, so we can start to add statistics to generate. We can start to add examples. We can start to add case studies to demonstrate and evidence the things that we are saying. And then if we were writing for in a different language, let's say we wanted to write in, I don't know, like Arabic. Let's say we were doing a bid for the Saudi. Again, we can just really quickly do a translation and translate that text into Arabic. So again, all the sorts of things you might want to do as a bid writer. We go back to our extraction. Okay, so there we go. We can see now we've extracted out exactly what the structure and supply chain, potential companies, number of companies. So again, you can see here how we've extracted out then those key commissioner priorities, and we can then use those commissioner priorities as inputs so that we can then use those to incorporate those into our bid response to make sure it really sings the commissioner's priorities to make sure we're scoring as highly as possible. Last thing I'll show you, just our research assistant. So this then uses the power of large language models to essentially do research for us. So I don't know, let's say I want to know, let's say I'm writing a bid. I used to run employment services in Brent. Let's say I want to, who supports young people in Brent. I'm writing a bid and I want to talk about how we're going to work with local people who support young people in Brent. We're going to do an unemployment project, but I want to work with people who are already working there. And again, what this is doing is just searching the whole of the internet, pulling those answers, checking them for consistency, bringing out the best sources. And then you can see, so Brent Young People Thrive is a service that aims to empower young people and their families. Brent Centre for Young People, mental health charity. Central Northwest London NH Trust Fund, services for young adults. And again, if we want to know exactly where those things have come from, we can just go. So this won't write you a winning bid. Right, so bid writing, we believe in augmented intelligence, human plus AI. This won't write you a winning bid. But what this will do is help a good bid writer write a winning bid legions faster than they would be able to otherwise. And by helping you get to a 6, 7 out of 10 draft in seconds and minutes, you can then spend your human level time, your human intelligence, really getting this to then being 9.8, 9.9, 9.95 out of 10, the stuff that actually wins, bids. So I'm conscious that I have now spoken for a relatively long period of time. So I'm going to start taking questions from the chat. Or I don't know if people can come off mute, or they might not be able to. But oh, look, we've got lots of questions, so I am happy to do this. How reliable are the translations? They are better than Google, but not as good as a native. So again, you would you would use this to speed up the process, but you would then want somebody at the end, a native speaker, to just give it a once over to iron out any kind of edges. Can you also pull in graphics, figures, and tables? So we can find and search graphics, figures, and tables, but we don't create graphics, figures, and tables. So there are some really cool graphics and art packages in generative AI. So I'd advise everyone to look at something like Midjourney, DALL-E 3 now. Kind of there's some fantastic image generation stuff. We very deliberately focus on words and text. That's our specialism, and that's the thing that we do. Feedback is that they are incredibly reliable, much more so than, say, Google Translate. We think around 95. Oh, this is Trisha. Yeah, that's right, Trisha. Well done. Well answered the question.
Thank you. But you're on Hayden's question next about have you seen customers using generative AI to assess bid submissions?
Yeah, it's they definitely are. There was a so the Australian government got in some trouble actually for naively using some artificial intelligence to test bids. Look, I'm really clear on this. I think that artificial intelligence can help you speed up the bidding and indeed the bid assessment process. So if I'm looking at a complex bid submission and I want to know, does it meet the minimum criteria? Software, large language model technology for that is exactly the right approach. But if I want to know who's got the best solution, that's kind of, again, human judgment, human level intelligence. If someone's bidding to run a large unemployment project, I want a human assessing whether that's or a group of humans assessing whether that's right or not. I'd like that group of humans to be using technology, right? I'd like that group of humans to be saying, oh, does it actually, what have they said about training for older workers? Well, I'd like to be able to go, right, great, just get the large language model to summarize for me exactly what they said about training about older workers so I can do it faster. But I do want a human to be ultimately the person making the decision, but I want that human to be using the best technology available to them, which is clearly large language model technology in this space. I think of it a bit like Excel. Excel won't write a financial model for you, but you'd be crazy to be putting in a financial model you've done by hand with pen and paper, rather than using kind of sophisticated tools available to you. And indeed, by using Excel rather than pen and paper, you're able to use your human time, because Excel's doing all the adding 2% or kind of like summing totals for you. Because you don't have to do that by hand, you've freed up the human to do more interesting and complex decision making around what's in that financial model and what it looks like. What classification of data can you handle? Yep, so we can handle all classifications of data. Where we've got really secure data, we just bowdlerize it beforehand. So we use a local large language model to essentially redact the documents before they go into our library. So you still can search them, you can still find stuff, but anything really sensitive has automatically been removed. How are clients, or will clients, adjusting to the idea that the words they're reading and scoring weren't written by the supplier? I think teachers marking the students' essays do envisage the same challenges from procurement teams. I think there's an interesting philosophical point about whether the words were written by the supplier or not. I think that, if you look at what our software does, it gives you lots of options. It gives you, it speeds up writing, but there's a huge amount of human input into what it's writing and then how it's incrementally improved. So I'll come back to the Excel metaphor. Nobody says, hey, look, Ministry of Defence, I want to assure you, for quality purposes, we didn't use Excel when we were doing our financial model. We didn't use a calculator. Everybody did those pen and paper calculations by hand, and we'd like to assure you of that. And it's higher quality. You go, well, that's obviously lower quality because you did that. It's much worse. Why didn't you use the technology which was available to you? So I think we're going to go from this notion that, like using a calculator in maths, you're going to go from a notion that that's somehow cheating to a notion that this is a tool for humans that pushes humans up the cognitive hierarchy. And these tools will not write you a winning bid. They won't come up with a brilliant solution for you. They will give you ideas that you as a human then select or down select. So I see I don't think Excel writes financial models. I think finance directors write financial models and they use Excel. Similarly, AutogenAI is not writing you a bid. You're writing the bid. You're just using AutogenAI to speed you up and make it better. Is the AutogenAI platform geared towards bidders only? Also, we have had buyers use the platform to create RFPs and to do analysis and increasingly be able to do that going forward. But our primary use case is people bidding, supply side. Cool. And yeah, and then so back to sort of what people should do or not. Yeah, I mean, again, I definitely wouldn't be excluding someone's financial model because they'd used Excel. Indeed, I think that would be a silly thing to do, was actively sort of stifling of human progress rather than advancing it. So I think those are all the questions we've had, unless anyone wants to jump in with another one. Or if anyone wants to ask a question for our software, a bid question, we could also do a bid question with it while we've got 10 minutes left. How important? It's very important. Yeah. So you can obviously write kind of so the question is, how important is the quality of the bid library content as an input? And it is extremely important for making sure that you're getting accurate case studies, that you're getting accurate statistics. If you don't have a good library, I mean, much like as think of it again as just something which is speeding up a human writer. If you go into an organization as a bid writer and they've got no previous bids, tenders, proposals, they've got no previous case studies, and you're asked, what's the case study? Give me 2 case studies demonstrating your experience of delivering this service, and you haven't got 2 case studies, then it's a very, very hard writing task at that point. So the quality of the bid library is extremely important. The more documents, the better. But quality is really just having the information. It doesn't matter how badly written they are or unstructured, because the language model can do all that for you. What is important is that they contain the facts and the ideas that you want to repurpose. How quickly can it learn? So it basically, Alex, it's improving and learning in real time. So we use a combination of factors, reinforcement learning through human feedback and increasing the document library, but it's learning every time you use the system. Can you automate the whole process? I can upload documents to a company or automatically fills out the necessary questions, or do I have to sit there and no, I'm afraid, Tim, you have to sit there and interact with the platform. So you can't drag and drop an ITT and get a winning bid out the back. That is not going to happen, and I think is still decades away from happening. However, this will make you 8 times as fast in terms of being able to bid. So you can either bid 8 times as much or spend 8 times as much time on kind of the polishing and the redrafting. And I'm guessing most people on this call are writers. As all writers know, the hard bit is in the winning bit, and what makes beautiful prose is the redrafting. I always loved the P.G. Wodehouse would write his first drafts and then he'd score each of his sentences out of 10, and he'd rewrite them and rewrite them and rewrite them until they scored 10 out of 10. And really that's what this allows you to do, get to a first draft really quickly, and then helps you with some of the redrafting process, so you can use your human level intelligence to do the top level stuff. Are you able to share the licensing models that you offer? Yep. So we have a model for kind of micro businesses and charities. And then we have a model for small businesses, medium businesses, and then we have a model for large businesses. And I'd be delighted to, if you write to info@autogenai.com, we'd be delighted to do a demonstration for you and talk you through pricing options. Is the bid proposal better business to government, or can it be business to business in any industry? We've got customers across all sectors and all industries. So we've got occupational health companies doing a lot of business to business. We've got one of the big four consultancies doing a lot of business to business audit proposals. We've got a number of the UK's strategic suppliers who are doing business to government with it. We've got a couple of the largest outsourcers in Australia, the largest outsourcers in the US doing business to government with it. So it really is across a huge range of sectors. William asked, do we offer a trial? What we do is we do what we call a test and play, where we'll do a couple of hours or a half day with your team where you can get a license and use the material. You don't need more than half a day to know that this is going to save you loads of time. So we don't do 3 longer trials. We'll do a half day where you can use it, sit with our trainers, use the team, try and write a tender or a bid with it, and after that you'll see you will know the value at that point. Can it learn over time to mimic creativity, e.g. anticipate win themes and competitive angles? Or just, so one of the things you can do is ask for win themes and ask for competitive angles. So in the ideation function, if you say, this is a bid to, do facilities management in a hospital, what should our win themes be? What innovative win themes might there be? How should we stand out from our competition? Again, it will come up with ideas just exceptionally quickly for you. Some of them will be good, some of them will be bad, but like you would with a human, brainstorm win themes and competitive angles. You can brainstorm with the AI. And we actually do that all the time. So we drink our own champagne on this. The AutogenAI software is always another person in the room with us when we're ideating, when we're brainstorming. What are the development areas for your tech? What's next for Autogen to keep you ahead? So some things we're really excited about. So we're really excited about what's a version of generative adversarial networks. So what they are is a type of AI where one type of AI tries to fight the other one or trick the other one. So how that would work in bid writing is we would have a bid writing system which says, to what extent does this answer meet the scoring criteria? So we'll take a bid response, we'll say, what extent does it meet the scoring criteria? So it's currently 7 out of 10 based on those scoring criteria. You then say, what would it take to make it 10 out of 10? You then take those ideas that it's given you and you say, incorporate those ideas back into the tender. You then say, score the tender. What does it score? It scores 8 out of 10. What would it take to score 10 out of 10? And you keep doing that iteratively, almost like self-reflection. And so you iteratively improve the bid. And then if you imagine doing that for how would this bid be improved to better meet the commissioner's win themes? How would this bid be improved to beat this competitor or beat this incumbent who he knows there? So that's one area, generative adversarial networks we're super excited about. We are integrating the whole product into Word and Google Docs, so you won't have to come out of Word to use the system, and that will be allow our users to far better track changes and collaborate in the system. So that's really exciting. That's really exciting too. There's just we've got a whole product roadmap. We drop new features every 2 weeks into the system, but those are a couple of areas I'm particularly excited about. Once you have an AutogenAI license, if you want to customize the system, is there anything that AutogenAI can do? Or once you're a client, you'll get updates from AutogenAI automatically. Basically, is it customizable by AutogenAI? Yes. So Rita, we build bespoke language engines for each customer that we work with. So we'll build it according to your tone of voice. We'll build it according to your criteria. So for example, we work with a very large research organization, and they said to us, well, look, this is great for bids, tenders and proposals, but we need a much more neutral, fact-based tone for the research reports that we're writing. So we built that in a week for them, kind of so they could wash their text and put it in a neutral tone of voice so that they could come up with research questions. So really with each of our customers, we work on custom transformations, custom libraries, of course, to make sure that it's doing exactly what they want them to do. And that's a key part of what we do is building those bespoke engines. Microsoft recently announced a new copyright commitment for customers of Copilot and said they will assume responsibility for the potential legal risks involved. Any thoughts on this and risk mitigation for companies using text from internet? So I think this is a really interesting area, James. So one is, I should say, large language models do not take text from the internet. in creative AI. They think of it as a sort of glorified autocomplete. They are genuinely making up new sentences. And once you randomly pick words, even across a small probability distribution, once you get to words 7 or 8 in a sentence, the chance of that sentence having been produced anywhere else is vanishingly low, just because of the nature of the compound probability. So where you are pulling ideas from the internet, again, that's why we pull scores of sources rather than 1 or 2 sources, because it's that classic, if you steal from one place, it's plagiarism. If you steal from 10 places, it's research. And that has been true of all copyright law kind of ever, that if I go and read 20 books and then write a new book based on those 20 books, that's very different to reading one book and writing a new book based on that book. So I think, so that's what I think the kind of bedrock answer is. I think then taking a step back, there is a bigger picture around these models which have been trained on everything that's ever been written, or in the case of art, every painting that's ever been digitized, every artwork that's on the internet. There's a very real moral question about how you reimburse those content creators who, albeit they were one of a billion creators, their creation is part of that system. And I certainly wouldn't want to see all of that going to OpenAI or Google or Facebook or the other large language model providers. There needs to be a fair way of compensating human creators. And I think actually all of those organizations are really keen to find a way to do this. And I think there's some interesting negotiations happening. Mark, I think you've got your hand up. I'm not sure if
yes.
Can we?
Yeah. Are you all right? Oh, yes. Am I coming through? Can you hear me?
You are, Mark. We can hear you.
Good to see you. I've got a real quick, I suppose we're right at the end, so perhaps not. It's got to be quick. But in terms of the end product, if you like, the produced bid product, does that then become part of the public domain? Does that go flying back out into the internet, or is it something that can be protected?
No, so everything's completely proprietary to your organization in your language engine. So we don't use that data to train anything else other than your language engine. So nobody else sees it, nobody else gets it. It is completely yours. The data is completely protected. And again, that's a key difference between us and other solutions. We don't use your data for anything other than you, which obviously extremely important for most of our customers. This is obviously kind of the crown jewels of their previous bids, tenders, proposals, and their new writing. So we keep it completely safe and secure and completely segregated. So, given what you said about the content library, is it better to sort out the quality of the content of the bid library before subscribing? Or would companies be better off to first declutter their library? Do you know, I think of this a bit like Google and the internet. So you don't need to declutter the internet. Indeed, it would be impossible to do so. What you want is a really powerful engine sitting over it, which tells you what's good and what's bad. So you can have a whole load of bad stuff as long as you're never returning it. And essentially that's what large language models do, and our language engine does. You can put in a whole load of content and we'll just return the most relevant content to you. So so it's better to just get started, start putting stuff into your library and let the system learn, rather than trying to do it yourselves beforehand. By the way, most of our customers ignore us on that and try and fix the library beforehand, but you don't need to. It's a very old-fashioned way of doing kind of content management. You can use the power of the large language model to sort the wheat from the chaff for you. Well, look, thank you for lots of questions around AutogenAI. Kind of, I wanted to try and this wasn't a sales pitch. I did want to try and give a very general overview of large language models and what this new generative artificial intelligence means for all of us, for humanity, right? And particularly, as I say, I'm a writer. I consider myself a writer. I spent so much of my career as a writer. I'm not saying that this wasn't an emotional challenge the first time that I saw it, but I've actually come to love it. I really have. I like it. I don't write anything without this tech anymore. I always use our technology when I write an email, when I write a script, when I write this presentation. And it has just made me a better writer, which I think is kind of awesome. So if anyone wants to see AutogenAI in action, drop us a line, info@AutogenAI. Would be delighted to do a demo for you and your teams and your colleagues. So thank you. Look, really appreciate so many people turning up, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks, everyone. Take care.